Bingo. We are live. It is episode number 2 in the first official live stream of Lay It on the Line. We're excited to have you here tonight. Um, I can't believe it, but we did it. We went 7 months without the NFL. 7 months without football sounds like a long time, and it was a long time. But we finally had our first taste of the action this weekend. Going to take a look at tonight's Monday night game, an epic way to start our NFL season. We had a great game Thursday night. We were supposed to get a great game last night, but I think we will finally have a good Monday night send off for the weekend here tonight. So we'll preview tonight's game between the Jets and the Bills. Also, believe we're getting Bills superfan Jake back on too. So we'll have to hear we'll get to hear what he has to say about tonight's game. But first, let's go back to the Thursday night game. Like I said, it was a very intriguing matchup when the schedule came out. That was an intriguing matchup right away, because the Lions are typically not a team you feature on primetime at all, let alone as one of the teams to start the season, to kick off the season. You're going to get a ton of views on this. The NFL doesn't want to screw up this matchup, and they got it perfectly. And, I'll just go ahead and say I can't believe what I saw in Arrowhead on Thursday night. I thought that's what, I had a hunch that the Lions were going to continue the momentum from last year into this season. But to finally actually see it, to actually see it on the field was eye-opening. I took the Lions spread, but I could not even I had no words for what I saw last night. The Detroit Lions, who we've known for years as a laughingstock of the NFL, went into the defending champs' house and stunned them. Jared Goff, quarterback of the Lions, most people had him written off. They thought his career was over with. He looked like he had something to prove Thursday night. And he looked like, I thought, a reinvented guy. He looked like a reinvented quarterback. Looked like the number one pick that we remember from back in the day. And I couldn't be happier for him. Jared Goff's quarterback, who I think is, for years, I thought people were too hard on him. I said the same thing about Jimmy G last week. I'm like, I like quarterbacks like this. They're not super flashy, but they manage the game well. They make the right plays. Their stat line's not always the best. It doesn't always look the most glamorous, but they just got that something, they got an extra thing in them, like a extra little edge to them. And that's why Jimmy G's a winner, despite, he doesn't have the tools that a lot of these other quarterbacks have, but he still wins. Same way as Jared Goff. He looked good last night. And I don't know, what did you think about the Lions? I was just super impressed with them. I think it was it was a great win for the Lions. I also think it was a bad loss for the Chiefs. What do you think about that?
It's hard to remember all the way back to Thursday after watching a full slate on Sunday. But my the Chiefs didn't look like the Chiefs, and the Lions didn't look like the Lions. The Lions came out swinging, a lot of question marks. Can they actually do it? And there's going to be a lot of overreactions week one. That might be one of them. But the Lions looked good. If you can go into if you're a team that can go into Arrowhead and grab a W week one on the most watched probably game of besides tonight's game, but that they look damn good. The Chiefs without their receivers, Kadarius Toney had a terrible game. That man has stone for hands, can't catch anything, along with the rest of their receiving core. I think the Chiefs are going to bounce back. The question is, can the Lions carry this momentum into the rest of the season? I don't know who they have week 2, but you can always look back at week 1 if you're the Lions, like, well, if we can go into Arrowhead and beat the Chiefs, we damn sure can beat anybody at home and steal some on the road too. So, they're, like I said, overreaction, but they're probably staring down a double-digit win season if they can keep this going.
Yeah, absolutely. After one game of the season, that's how everybody operates. They're going to overreact to everything they saw. And you can't do that. But I think this was one of the games where it actually is proof of something that's real. A lot of teams, there's a lot of games where it's like, okay, they had a great week 1, but is it actually legit? I think this thing is actually legit because they carried that momentum from last year over to the season. It looked like there was 1 week between that last game where they knocked your Packers out of the playoffs and this game. It looked like they didn't skip a beat at all. And on the other end, it looked like the Chiefs, like you said, were a completely different team in the other direction. This is a team that's coming off a Super Bowl, and obviously a lot of teams have Super Bowl hangovers. That's just kind of a thing that could be expected. It's tough to be at the top and then maintain that week 1 right away. That was a bad loss. And I understand you have no Travis Kelce. I understand you have no Chris Jones, but that Mahomes contract is kicking in. A lot of those guys he was thrown to a couple years ago are gone. We'll talk about Tyreek Hill later. He's, kicking ass down to Miami. You're not throwing to him anymore. Like you said, you're throwing to Kadarius Toney now. That's her number one guy. That's her number one receiver, Kadarius Toney. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen from a wide receiver play. And it wasn't just a bad performance. That was horrible, like all time horrible. I have a stat line right here. He had 1 carry for a -1 yard. He had 1 catch on 5 targets for 1 yard. And then obviously he had 2 brutal drops. The one right to his hands for a pick six, which was the game changing play. I mean, the Lions won by 1 point. That was the game changing play right there. And then the second one, when they looked like they're finally going to have like the Chiefs moment where they come back and win. Another, obviously, wasn't a perfect pass, but still wide open pass down there would have set him up, I think, inside the 20-yard line. He drops that one too. That is one of the worst performances I've ever seen from a wide receiver, and he's their number one dude. And Mahomes, he had completions to 6 different guys, and none of those receivers looked any good. And I still think the Chiefs, you could probably say, are the front runners in the AFC. Obviously, they just, I think they, like about an hour ago, they inked Chris Jones to a 1-year deal, so he'll be back. And Travis Kelce, I don't know if he'll be back week 2, but he'll be back eventually. So they were missing some dogs, but I thought it was a little alarming. I think I know, like you said, you can't overreact too much, but I think there was a little something there to the Chiefs that they got to fix quickly because their schedule's tough. And the Lions, I think the hype is perfect. I think the hype for them is perfect. There's going to be some teams who brag a little bit too much after week 1. The Lions are not one of those teams. They deserve that. I think like you said, they're on their way to 10 wins. The Packers looked good too, but I'm going to hammer down on what I said last week. I think the Lions are the best team in the NFC North. I think they're going to win the division. So that was my takeaway. I don't have anything else you want to say on that, but then we can go ahead to the noon games. It was a big game. I think it was a great way to kick off the NFL season. Credit the NFL for trusting the Lions to show up, and they did. They put on a show. Like you said, tonight's game should be pretty fun too. But for my money's worth, that was the best game of the weekend. Was that Thursday night game? Let's go ahead to the Sunday slate. There was a bunch of games at noon. I'll just go ahead and take the honor since my team played at noon, and the Packers played at 3 o'clock. So for the noon game, I'll just go ahead and start with the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars as the first team we take a look at here. Like I said last week, I don't really have expectations for the Colts this year. So if we stink, we stink. That's kind of how I'm going to accept things. So I wasn't super upset. Ended up losing 31-21. It was a roller coaster, though, in typical Colts fashion. Like I said, taking the L doesn't really have me pissed off today. It's not has me angry because I expected to take the L. In fact, I was actually kind of surprised with how we played. I thought we played better than what I was expecting. Every time the Jaguars scored, we came right back and answered. Obviously, it was Anthony Richardson's first game of his career. I thought he played very well. I thought the game plan was perfect for him. We didn't put him in a lot of situations where he had to go make the play. He had to throw down deep. It was a lot of dump downs, a lot of RPOs, but it worked. And in fact, we had a lead in the fourth quarter. So I was happy with the way we played. I'm looking at the other end for the Jaguars. I think they are the best team in the AFC South. I think they'll end up winning that division. I was not impressed with the Titans. Not impressed with the Texans. I'm a little optimistic. I think we could finish second. I think we can finish second in the AFC South. I think so. What do you think? That's crazy?
No, I don't. It's tough. I think you got what you expected. Maybe a little bit better out of AR in his first game. I think you really missed Taylor. I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Deion Jackson, 13 carries for 14 yards. That's not going to cut it for a Colts offense that likes to run the ball. I mean, you played well. I mean, yeah, it's a loss, but you played the best team in the division. Some say it one of the top teams in the AFC. And you lost by 10, but you got a rookie quarterback. You're not playing with Jonathan Taylor. Couldn't really run the ball, but I mean, that's kind of what you expected out of the Colts for this first game.
The final score ended up being way bigger than it was. We had a lead in the fourth quarter. We were up 21-17. Then we gave up 2 touchdowns at the end. So they ended up winning by 10. We had that game won for a point there. We were up by 4, and a lot of the credit goes to the defense on that one. It wasn't really the offense, but to only lose by 10 and to have a lead in the fourth quarter, I was beyond impressed. Richardson did throw a pick there at the end, but that was the last drive. He pretty much essentially went the whole game without throwing a bad interception. And you look at some of the other quarterbacks in the league, Bryce Young threw 2 picks. He looked bad. I saw a stat today. They did. I forget what the stat is called. It's like the ERA or something like that. ER something quarterback ranking. And of all the quarterbacks, Anthony Richardson was the only one who had a positive number. I want to pull that up. I saw that stat. The 2 other rookie quarterbacks had like a terrible number. Anthony Richardson had a positive one. He had like numbers that was close to like Justin Herbert, Kirk Cousins levels. He had good numbers week 1.
Really?
And then he's 21 years old. He's only played in 13 college games. It's not like being a rookie on its own is tough enough, but this guy has hardly any college experience, and he's a rookie. And he's 21 years old. When he made a mistake, he knew it right away. Like he knows what he has to correct. Some quarterbacks you throw out there and they're just clueless. It's like this is a whole different ball game. He knew what he was doing wrong, and he was making adjustments. It's not going to be easy sailing, but as the season goes on, I'm much more impressed with our potential than I was a week ago. Last week I was really down on the Colts. I thought we looked way better. They exceeded my expectations.
He took a dinger at the end of the games. Was that just like what do you got?
He's fine.
What happened there?
He's not. No, he's fine. That's one thing he's got to learn is, dude, that he's got to slide. And Jonathan Vilma was like the color guy for the game. He said it about 10 different times. Like, dude, this guy's got to get down. And it's tough when he's got a big frame. He's like 6'4", 235. Like he's built. In college, he could bowl those dudes over, but that's not the game in the NFL. He took a big hit there at the end where he should have just slid. That was one of the knocks on him. His accuracy isn't quite there, but he's got a big arm. He's very mobile, and he makes pretty well reads for a guy who's only played 13 games. So I'm much more optimistic on how the season could potentially be. I still think we're going to fit somewhere solid between like 6 wins and maybe 8 wins. I think that's probably our best bet, but I'm much more optimistic. So Jaguars, like I said, are the best team in the division for sure. I think they're going to win that division with ease. I don't see us contending. I don't see the Titans really contending, but that was kind of my takeaways from that one. Do you have anything else to add?
No, not on that game. Like I said, kind of expected. Jags get the win. Colts showed some potential. Got to go into week 2, sweep it under the rug, and hope to perform better next week.
Right. Next game. This is a game I didn't have a lot of eyes on, but I have the Falcons and the Panthers up next year. My main thoughts from this one, I talked a little bit about it already. Bryce Young, you might have rolled the Tide in college, but you got fucking rolled yesterday. He looked like shit. And keep in mind, the Panthers traded up to get him. Like that was their dude. Unequivocally. He looked horrible, and he had a bad preseason too. I don't think he's ready. I don't think he looks ready. And that's a guy who has experience in college and has had a lot of success in college. And he didn't look like he was ready for the NFL at all. That was my main takeaway. Also, another rookie looked way better, Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson had himself a day. I mean, all the talking heads scoffed at that pick, drafting a running back in the first round, let alone in the top 10. Dude had a touchdown on a swing pass. He had a 21-yard score. Was bulldozing dudes over. Bijan Robinson was all gas, no breaks. He's a stud right away. Obviously, quarterback is a different position than running back, but he took the next level from college to NFL with ease. He's going to be a stud right away for the Falcons. Don't want to forget my main man, Desmond Ridder, either. He didn't really light up on the stat sheet, but I think he's continuing to progress. I think he started the last 4 or 5 games last year for them. They have enough faith in him that they rolled him out for the entire season this year. They think they can hang in the division. I think they maybe can too. I still think the Saints are the best team, but I thought the Falcons looked pretty good. It was a sluggish start at first. They had to come back there at the end. Well, I think the building blocks are there for the Falcons. I'm going to go back to the Bryce Young. You're in the big leagues now, man. You can't be tossing interceptions. The 2 picks he threw, they were both like identical throws right over the middle, and it was the same dude. He had 2 picks to the same exact linebacker on like the same exact kind of route. It was really bad. He was just tossing picks like it was a 2-for-1 sale. The jitters looked bad for him. I didn't see any signs of like jitters from Anthony Richardson. He came out ready to go. Bryce Young looked awful, I thought. And then at the end, Adam Thielen at the end of the game was like, well, we still have trust in him. Can't spell trust without rust. And I thought Bryce Young had a lot of that on him, so I don't know what you thought about that. I thought Bryce Young
Yeah,
looked bad.
this game definitely not one of the exciting games in the noon slate, but Falcons, they're our next opponent. We'll get to the Packers later on, but I'm Desmond Ritter and Bryce Young. I mean, two young quarterbacks. Neither of them. Bryce Young played like shit. Desmond Ritter, he did okay. His stat sheet's not really there. He had 115 yards, one touchdown, no picks though. But Bijan, and we did forgot to touch on this in the Lions game, but Jameer Gibbs and Bijan, although Gibbs didn't get the carries and touches the Lions fans probably wanted, both of them I thought looked really solid. Now we won't know if they're top 15 first round picks until the end of the season and see what they do, or like whether they're worth it or not at that point. But I don't know if you saw Bijan's touchdown reception. Did you catch that
Yeah,
highlight? That
yes.
that was pretty smooth, and I think he's going to help the Falcons score some points. Um, it's kind of they're in a shitty division. I don't know. Like I said, the game was okay. I'm not too worried about the Falcons next week as a Packers fan going there. But yeah, not much to take away there other than Bijan's damn good for now, and Bryce Young's got some stuff to work on.
Bijan certified. There's no wait until the end of the year to see if he's good. He's day one certified, dude. Yeah. He looked like a top 10, maybe even top 5 back period yesterday. He had one of the
Oh,
best days.
come on.
He did, dude. I'm not lying. I'm not lying here, dude. He looked like a stud yesterday.
Let's take a look. I mean, 56 yards on the ground, 27 at the touchdown. He didn't even have
He's
100
sharing
yards.
here too. He's not getting all the workload from what I saw and just a little bit. And obviously, as a rookie, like they're not plugging him in there as much as they can. Like you said, Jameer Gibbs didn't play a lot. These guys aren't getting all the snaps yet. They don't know the playbook completely. From what I saw, dude, he is certified legit. He might be the rookie of the year. He might be the. He might just win it
Wow.
all. I might just throw it out there right now.
Wow. That's I don't hate the take. I just after one game against the Panthers defense, it just isn't that great.
It's the
I don't know.
Panthers defense.
I personally won't go that far, but that's he looked good. Now rookie of the year, that we'll see about that. But one game, he looked good. We'll see if he can continue it next week when he plays one of the best defenses in the league, and go from there, I guess. But we'll have to wait on that take to see if you're right.
Moving ahead here, the noon slate. There was some, as the noon slate there always is. There's some stinkers in this one. This game, the Ravens. If you look at the final score, they won 25-9 over the Texans. So it looks like a dominant win. But what I saw wasn't far from that. The Ravens were very underwhelming, even in a win like that. Even in a win that was pretty much decided, it was in their favor the entire game. I still thought it was very underwhelming. They do have a new OC in there this year. Lamar had 2 turnovers. It just seemed out of sync. It was actually kind of close in the first half. They pulled one in the second half, but in the first half, the Texans looked pretty dang good. And then obviously the bad news is just awful news. J.K. Dobbins went down with a torn Achilles, obviously out for the season. For a starting running back on a team that we talked about last week, maybe could be a sleeper to win the AFC. That's a tough blow. I still think they can overcome it. I mean, John Harbaugh is a great coach. I think he's going to find ways to lead him through. I think I forget the backup's name. He came in and actually played pretty decently. I think they got some decent names on the practice squad they could pull up too. So I think they'll be fine. I just wasn't very impressed with Baltimore, though. I mean, Odell's back, but he was more of just a whisper than a shout. I don't even know if he had more than 2
Get
catches.
two
He didn't look
exactly,
great.
2 for 37.
2 for 37. Okay. I mean, that's okay.
Not great.
Looking at the Texans, I thought CJ Stroud looked a lot better than Bryce Young, but I didn't think looked better than Richardson as far as rookie quarterbacks went. He didn't throw any picks, though. That's what set him ahead of Bryce Young. Is he didn't make any bad interceptions. Bryce Young had 2 of them. So he did have a sack on 4th and 1, though. It was like the first drive of the game. It was 4th and 1. He took a bad sack. Other than that, I thought Stroud played okay. If you're a Texans fan, I think it's okay. What did you think?
What separates the rookie quarterbacks from each other is the amount of mistakes each one makes. CJ Stroud didn't make too many mistakes yesterday. Like you said, he didn't throw any picks. That's a positive. That's one positive a Texans fan can take away from a 25-9 loss. They're playing one of the best teams in the AFC. Yeah, J.K. Dobbins goes down. I believe running back should be paid, but I think Dobbins is replaceable in that backfield in a Ravens offense, especially when you have to already deal with Lamar and the read RPOs and everything else. They'll be fine going forward. I think it was just a rust game for them, but the Texans just not much really going for them, to be honest. Damian Pierce, coming off a great season last year, looked okay, 3.5 yards a rush. But yeah, CJ Stroud played fine. He's right up there. I thought Anthony Richardson played a little better than him, but I'd put AR, CJ Stroud right below him, and then Bryce Young a couple notches below. But a lot of season left. We'll see. A lot of people right and myself are writing the Texans off already as bottom of the division and probably not going to make too many waves this year. But that's kind of the excitement they have. They have a rookie quarterback, young running back. Now they pick up Robert Woods, who had a decent game. But one person who impressed me, and I believe this guy's a rookie. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but Zay Flowers had 9 receptions, 78 yards, carried the ball a couple times for 9 yards. He looks pretty good in a Ravens offense that kind of struggled. I think he'll kind of bloom into a good, well, we can get into fantasy too, but a wide receiver one at low wide receiver one, high wide receiver two at the end of the year. But yeah, 25-9, Ravens get the W as expected. They were probably the most popular pick in any Survivor League pool this year for week one. They got the job done. On to the next. Harbaugh will figure it out.
Yeah, I'm looking at the running backs. They do have it was Justice Hill as a backup, and he played pretty good. They also have Gus Edwards, who's got some experience. And then, yeah, like you said, Zay Flowers, he is a rookie from BC, I believe, Boston College. He did
Yep.
have a great game. I got him on a fantasy bench. He looks out. He might be a guy talking fantasy. He might be a game changer later on as the season goes. Yeah, like I said, I don't want to overreact too much to the Ravens. I was not impressed with them, but like you said, it was week one. Obviously, they had to deal with a big injury there too, as well. That kind of sucked a lot of sales out of the air. You just knew right away that was
Two of them. No
bad
Andrews
injury.
either.
Yeah, no Mark Andrews either. That's true. So they're playing. I mean, that's really their. I mean, that's one of their probably premier
That's a top
playmakers.
target. Yeah.
Offense, yes, for sure. Yeah, he's like a Travis Kelsey too. Top two tight ends in the league both missed game one, week one of the season. So that did definitely play an effect on the Ravens too as well. Dobbins is a tough blow. It's tough for him too because he's in the last year of his rookie deal. Like, that's a guy that's probably, if he has a good season, is about to get paid. Just a tough break, and he's been hurt before. Wish him the best. I think the Ravens, like you said, it's going to be tough. He's their clear number one guy, but I think they'll be able to figure it out. Let's move on to Browns Bengals. This was a big game. I had my eye going on to this one, and even though it was a blowout, it was very entertaining. I know you were hyped about this one too, as well. Jamar Chase running his mouth before the game all week, just calling out just calling out the Cleveland Browns. The Browns are the Browns. Their defense is a bunch of elves. Just saying a bunch of dumbass shit. Well, Jamar, you called the Browns elves. Well, you just got your ass stuffed down a chimney from those elves. 5 catches, 40 yards. Joe Burrow just got paid. He looked like he had the worst quarterback performance of anybody. Worse than Josh Dobbs, worse than some of those rookies. He had the worst day. Even Danny Dimes, who we'll get to in a little bit, who got his ass kicked on Sunday Night Football, didn't have a worse day than Joe Burrow. I think he was the biggest stink of the week. I don't know about you. I thought he had the worst performance. And Mahomes didn't have a great game, but he had great comments. I don't really like Mahomes at all, but he had great comments after the game. He owned up to the loss. He didn't take any bull. He didn't have any bullshit. He didn't deflect anywhere else. Said it was on me. After the game, Joe Burrow tried to blame it on being hurt, not playing, and or not being able to practice in training camp. He didn't really own up to it. It's like, dude, you just got paid big time money, and you followed it up with a all time. That was the worst performance he's ever played. That was the worst game I think he's probably ever played. You go back to Pop Warner
College,
days.
high school, NFL. Yeah.
That was awful.
Agreed. Did
And
we
the
did we
Bengals, I
not
still think they're
talk
solid.
about
Go ahead.
did, did we not talk about the Browns enough maybe in our week one episode, our first episode? Are they potentially a team that can make some waves in the AFC? Deshaun Watson, I mean, he didn't have a great game by any means, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, but they looked pretty fucking good. And that defense looked even better. And I don't know. The Browns are the Browns. I mean, I've said that probably our first episode, but now I'm kind of rethinking them. If Deshaun gets his shit together, they got Nick Chubb. Um, Elijah Moore had a decent game, and someone who you'd not expected to. I mean, that's a good win for the Browns. Obviously, it's a rivalry in state and everything, but to hold Joe Burrow at 100 yards, who a lot of people in the world would say he's the best quarterback in the NFL, it's pretty good. That's a pretty good statement out of Cleveland, week one.
Cleveland, Detroit have very similar storylines. I think Detroit's obviously much better, to a much bigger extent, but Cleveland is kind of like the same team too. They took a lot of shit. Like you said, Jamar Chase was running his mouth saying it's the same old Cleveland. Well, it was not. It was not the same old Cleveland yesterday. I still think the Lions are a much more impressive team. I think they have more talent than the Browns, but I think they're very comparable. As where this is a team that's traditionally the laughing stock, who maybe might be taking the step forward this year. I would still roll with either throughout a course of a 17-week season. I will still roll with the Bengals. I will still roll with the Ravens over the Browns. But yes, I was very impressed with them. Deshaun Watson, he's right on the fringe of a top 10, top 12 quarterback. Like you said, he didn't have a great game yesterday, but Nick Chubb is a stud. The defense looked very good. That was the case for a lot of teams yesterday who won big games. They did it in large in part to their defense. The Browns dominated, handled their business. They clowned the Bengals from start to finish. Very impressed with the Browns. I think they could be in the playoff mix for sure. Like I said, over the course of the season, I'll still put money on the Bengals. I think they will figure it out. I think there is some merit to what Joe Burrow said. He didn't play any preseason games. He didn't practice a lot. He had a calf strain, but it was ugly. And it doesn't look good when you sign a guy to that kind of money and then he follows it up with that. It doesn't look good at all. I think they'll figure things out. I would expect them to make the playoffs, but that was a brutal performance.
They're good. They're good. They'll make the playoffs. They'll figure it out. It's Joey B. I love Joey B. and Jamar and Joe Mixon. They'll be right there at the end of the year. Week one rust. But
it's
did you know the Browns have three? The Browns have three 20-plus point blowout wins in like the last 6 years. Every single one of them is against the Bengals. There's just something about. I mean, you know this, being a Colts fan and Iowa fan, there's rivalries. They make a difference. I don't care how good or bad you are. When you are playing an in-state rival, you got Joe Burrow, that you can't just expect to walk in there and grab a win. I mean, that's pretty impressive out of the Browns. They beat them by 20 plus 3 times in the last 5 or 6 years.
Are you alluding to a different kind of in-state rival that happened this weekend? Is that what you're talking about? Because I do agree. There's some rivalries where it just
I don't
seems
know.
like
I don't think there was a. Oh, last year's right. Okay, yeah, the 10-7 Iowa State Iowa game. That exactly, just like that. We went into Kinnick. You guys thought you're going to come out the dub, and in-state anything can happen. Yeah, you're right. Last year's rivalry.
I wasn't going to bring it up. I thought maybe what you were hinting at. Yeah, no, I agree. I agree that there is something there to the Browns. They kind of have the number on the Bengals as of late, and they kicked the pants off them yesterday. Like I said, you don't want to overreact to everything, but I think there's something there to the Browns. I think the Bengals are still fine, but it was an awful day for them. Moving on, we're starting to wrap up here towards the tail end of the noon games. Buccaneers and Vikings. If you're a Tampa Bay fan, I feel like you got to be pretty enthused. If you're a Vikings fan, you're probably a little embarrassed. I would be very embarrassed if I was a Vikings fan. Their O-line, it's the same thing in and year out. They got solid pieces everywhere else, but that O-line holds them back so much every year. And Kirk, a lot of people put the full blame on Kirk. There, to some extent, it is his fault, but I think the bigger issue is the offensive line. It's just never been stable. It's never been good. They couldn't get the run game going yesterday. I mean, you're playing the Buccaneers. The Bucs defense is pretty good, but you're probably not expecting to have to throw the ball 45 times with Kirk Cousins. You think you're going to get a lead, to be able to run the ball, show off your new running back, Alexander Madison. But credit the Buccaneers defense because they looked good, but they blew up Kirk Cousins multiple times. He threw a bad pick before halftime. Then he got knocked on his ass a couple of times. just got leveled. The O-line is not there for the Vikings, and the Packers shined yesterday, and the Lions shined on Thursday. They did not shine. They looked like a bottom tier team in the division, I thought. And I don't know. They got a tough schedule. There's a playoff team last year, so they're playing a tough schedule. I don't know. It doesn't look very good if I'm a Vikings fan. Like you talked about, the NFC South isn't great. So if you're a Buccaneers fan, maybe they can hang around in that division. I still think the Saints are the favorites. I think that the Falcons are maybe a little bit better than the Buccaneers. But I want to credit Baker Mayfield. I mean, that dude has been bounced around from the league year after year. Obviously started out with the Browns. Then he goes to Carolina. He ended up with the Rams for a little bit last year. Then he actually gets a starting job again, which I never thought was going to happen. I thought that guy was donezo. Tampa Bay gives him a shot, and he looked bad at the beginning. I think he started like 3 for 10, 3 for 11. But at the end, he was making plays. He made some big clutch plays down there at the end. He kind of won them the game there at the end. He got him in position. Chase McLaughlin had a 57-yard field goal at the end to give the edge to the Buccaneers, 20-17 victory. What did you think? Because you're an NFC North fan. What did you have to say about the Vikings?
Well, let's back up a little bit. I'm an NFC North Packers fan. I'm not NFC North Bears or Vikings fan. I spent all afternoon with Vikings yesterday. Ryan Stolken, our very good buddy, blowing up group chats about the Vikings all summer and all last year. They had so many times they could have put this game away. And I don't know if you saw it, but your old boy, Matt Ryan, was announcing the game.
Yeah.
And someone turned to him at halftime and said, "This feels like the Vikings should be up 28-3 at half." He just shook his head. But it really did. It felt like the Vikings had control of the game. Justin Jefferson had 150 yards, 9 receptions. Your rookie receiver gets 60 yards and a touchdown. I mean, Kirk he threw 1 pick, but other than that, 344 yards and 2 touchdowns. You can say a lot of things about Baker Mayfield, but that motherfucker is resilient. And I think the Bucs kind of showed that as a team. I mean, they could have been counted out multiple times in that game. Vikings just kept making mistakes, and the Bucs took advantage of it. And Vikings did quite the opposite. I think there was 6 drives in a row that the Bucs had that either ended in a punt, and it was 5 punts and 1 field goal, I think, or something like that. And the Vikings had no points on the board after those. And in the NFL, you got to take advantage of that. And you're going in halftime in the third quarter, and now the fourth, and you're thinking, okay, same old Vikings, close game in the fourth quarter, as they always do. Last year, they won 13 of them. This year, not starting off that way. They take a loss to a Bucs team that, honestly, they should beat 9 times out of 10, I think. And they didn't get it done at home. That's not a good start for Minnesota. And things could go south real quick if they keep playing like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a team that really – it kind of feels like they overachieved last year. Like you said, they had a dozen one-score wins, and then they're in the situation this year. It doesn't go their way. And like I said, the playoff team's has to play a playoff schedule the next year. Their schedule's tough. I was looking at it. That's when you got to start. If you want to get back to the playoffs again, if you want to repeat as champs of the North, you got to win this game at home, season opener. You got to put a team like that away. You can't let a team like that hang around. Like I said, they threw a really bad pick before halftime. I think that really changed the game. I think they would have went up by like 2 scores maybe if they would have scored there before halftime. Cousins throws a bad pick. They're not able to run the ball, so they got to throw it more.
That's a game they're going to look back on week 18, and if they're in the playoff hunt, they're going to be like, shit, if we just would have won that week 1 game against the Bucs. I also want to throw out, there are some Vikings fan. He was mentioned earlier, but he's already talking about just tanking and hopefully getting Caleb Williams in the draft after week 1.
Yeah,
and he's probably overreacting a little bit, but maybe that's what they need. Maybe they do go 0-16-17 this year. I wouldn't be too mad about that.
Well, I'm sure you'd love that. That's not going to happen. The Vikings are too good. I mean, they're not going to.
They're too good.
There's teams that they're just going to be awful, and they're going to be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes. The Vikings are not one of them. They're good. That's not going to happen. That's just unrealistic. Yeah. They
Well,
got to figure
that's
something
Ryan
out what they
Stolker
want
for
to
you.
do. I don't know. They got to figure out what they want to do at quarterback after this year. Like I said, I don't think it's all Kirk to blame. The O line is just not good. It's never been good. It's been like 10 years of the same thing. So they got some more weapons to throw to, but if you can't run the ball, you're not going to be able to chew up clock and win some of these ugly games like that. So I think the Vikings. I don't want to sound the alarm quite yet on them. I still think they have talented roster. I think they have a very good coach. But it was just not a good way to start the season. Let's move ahead to Saints and Titans. I was very impressed. Well, you want to talk about impressive performances? Derek Carr, I thought, had a very good performance. Welcome to New Orleans, man. In a new system, that's tough. He's only known the Raiders, and then he gets kind of shipped out, gets the raw end of the deal. I thought out there, and New Orleans welcomes him with open arms. The dude got punched in the mouth. The Titans D got after him. He got just leveled like 4 or 5 times. It's a big sacks. He threw a pick. Then he had a big nasty forearm shiver to the grill. He got bounced around. It seems like Derek Carr always takes big hits like that. But you know what? He hung in there and he pulled off the win. I think this guy's got a little something extra in him. Like I said, I love quarterbacks like this. I love quarterbacks like Jared Goff. I like quarterbacks like Derek Carr. I like quarterbacks like Jimmy G. They're just something to him. I don't know what it is. He had a dagger there at the end to put away the game once and for all. And not a lot of quarterbacks would take the whooping he did and come back with a knockout punch. So I was very impressed with Derek Carr. I'm a big Derek Carr fan. I'm glad he got a second chance. And the Saints defense also looked very good. We said that I think we both agreed that we thought the Saints were going to win this division. That was one of our picks. I have a futures on the Saints winning this division. I think it's still pretty competitive, but I think they're just a step ahead of all those other teams for sure. I think they're the front runner by far. They got after Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill had an awful day too. We talked about Joey B. Ryan Tannehill stunk it up too. He threw 3 picks. They got stopped 10 times on third down. They went like 2 for 12 on third down to the Titans. The defense of the Saints got after Tennessee, and then Mike Vrabel made a dumbass move at the end of the game. They're down, I think it was 16-12. They're down 4. It's 4th and 6 at the 11. There's 2:20 left. He kicks a field goal. I think they had all 3 timeouts left, but he kicked a field goal to go down by 1. So now they're down 16-15. They got to get a stop on defense. It's 4th and 6 at the 11, man. You got to go for it. You got to get a stop regardless. Whether you're down 1 or whether you're down 4, you got to get a stop either way. Fucking try to get the first down. Try to get a touchdown. Go win the game. I don't know. I thought it was a weird decision. Mike Vrabel's a defensive guy, and he said he thought he could trust the defense to get a stop. But I don't know. If you're down 4 points, kicking a field goal to get down by 1, and then still knowing you have to get a 3 and out right away, I thought that was stupid. Excuse me. I thought that was
Are
stupid.
you saying that knowing the Packers' history with that same call?
Well, I know you've had your fair share of troubles with that too, but it's just like
I don't like the call either. But when you're 2 for 10 on third down and you have Ryan Tannehill, I mean,
you got a
we had
point there.
Rodgers, so that was a hard pill to swallow because we have one of the most talented quarterbacks. Let's give the ball in his hands to try and end the game. They've got Tannehill. They're struggling. The receivers quite aren't there. I don't know. Either way, Vrabel's a good coach, and he'll figure it out. That maybe wasn't the smartest decision. But the Saints, their defense has not been the problem the past couple of years. Their defense is stout, always is. I'm not as big a Derek Carr fan as you are, but you got Michael Thomas back. He's healthy right now. He's kind of teaching Olave some things. He played super fucking well.
Yeah.
When Kamara comes back in 3 weeks, they could be a team to be reckoned with. But I just don't think that. I mean, you heard me last time. I'm the AFC South is the worst division. A win over the Titans. A win is a win in the NFL. Winning by 1. I don't think the Saints impressed me that much. But either way, good win. There's some room to improve there. You're in a division that's not too great. Derek Carr is resilient, kind of in the Baker Mayfield way. He's kind of in that category, but I needed to see some more out of them to believe in him for the rest of the year.
Yeah, the division is going to be tight down to the wire. I think. And I know it's a Titans. It's a 1-point win, but it's a new quarterback and a new system. I think they'll figure
Yeah,
it out. I don't know if they're great, but I think they are the best team in the division. I wasn't super impressed with them, but as far as teams in that division, I think they were the best team by far. I think they're a
yeah,
step ahead of the Falcons, although I think the Falcons aren't super far behind them. I think they can maybe catch them. I think they are light years ahead of of the Panthers. And then I'm still not sold on the Buccaneers. I think they
no,
had a big win yesterday, but I think they're kind of a step below. I think it's really a two-team race between the Saints and the Falcons, but I
yeah,
was impressed with how Derek Carr played in the new system. I'm just excited to see him get a second chance. I think he can lead him to the promised land out there. I don't know. All right, now I think that's the rest of the noon games there. Let's go ahead to the 3 o'clock game. I know you've been waiting, so I'll let you take the lead here. Packers and Bears. What do you got?
man, man, does it feel good, Meisner?
Yeah.
I fucking hate the Bears, and I don't like their fans, and they're still our little brother. That's fine. We lose Rodgers, we lose Favre. They're still a little bro. Still stay down there probably for a long time. But I mean, that game just starting off with the Bears having a roughing or a holding call on the receiving team, and then going for it on fourth down, missing it, and then we go down and score right. I mean, I don't want to overreact to the Packers season yet. I told you we could get off to a hot start and go to Atlanta next week. That we'll take it one game at a time now. But I was the most impressed with our defense. My dude Quay Walker back there at the pick six. We were getting after Justin Fields all day. We didn't really let him run the ball that well. Again, with all this being said, we played the Chicago Bears. So happy with the win. Am I gonna overreact and say we're gonna win, the NFC North? I'm not gonna say that quite yet because the Lions looked damn good too, but I couldn't be much happier for a week one performance. Put up a lot of points. Defense played well. Jordan Love showed some promise. Might be something there. Aaron Jones did what he does, over 100 total yards, reception, touchdown. Bakhtiari looked good. Romeo Dobbs or Dubes, he caught a touchdown pass. I think he's going to make some strides this year, along with Watson, even though he's kind of quiet. Um, yeah, I mean, it was a good game. It was a great 3 o'clock game. Justin Fields, you know, I don't know. They have some problems everywhere else, but he didn't look the best either, to be honest. I don't know. What do you take away from the Bears first of all, and then let me know what you think about the Packers.
Well, the Bears, I mean, there's those fans. The Bears fans have always been pretty delusional, and I always found myself somewhat slightly rooting for the Bears. I've never had any beef with them, but man, their fans got pretty annoying this summer. I don't know about you. I mean, and then
Yeah,
they started winning the preseason games, and they might need to fucking tone down the expectations a little bit. They were like, "This we could win the division this year. It's ours. It's ours to take." They were cheering Aaron Rodgers out of the division. They were laughing him away, you know. And what happens? You got a guy who sat on the bench the last 3 years, who comes in and picks up the pieces. Like you said, the little brother, big brother effect is still there. It doesn't matter if I mean it's not Brett Favre anymore. It's not Aaron Rodgers anymore. But Jordan Love picked up the pieces and slapped it to him. I thought it was a classic beatdown, classic Packers beatdown. But instead of having two Hall of Fame quarterbacks, it's a guy who's making his first career start as the starter on the road as the underdog in a 3 o'clock slot. That was everyone's. I would say in terms of across the NFL, I think that the most eyes were on that one as a whole. Obviously, around here in the Midwest, everyone was looking at that game. It's a big rivalry. But they really were hyping that game up in the 3 o'clock game. That was definitely, I think, the number one game in that slot. So the Bears are the Bears, man. They had a franchise worst 14 losses last year, and now you're starting off this season like you could be going for it again. I don't think it's really all Justin Fields. I think Justin Fields played. I mean, he played good at the end of the year, and I think he played good yesterday. But my biggest thing from him is he didn't look like he took a step forward. He's still a guy that's developing. He didn't look like he took a step ahead than what he did last year. And like I said, it's just one game. It's going to be a while, to finally get him back into the rhythm of things. But I mean, The Bears still look like the same old Bears. You got some different faces in there, but that doesn't mean they're really improved. Chase Claypool, Darnell Mooney had a touchdown at the end, but I mean, these guys aren't really bona fide. They don't really have any bona fide targets. I'm not impressed with Chicago at all. I think it could be another long year for them. I really do. And at the other hand, I was very impressed with the Packers. Jordan Love, like I said, 3 years on the bench, riding the pine behind Aaron Rodgers, and he came out slinging. I thought he looked good. I thought he looked poised. You talk about young quarterbacks who are really making their first start. He looked ready to go. He looked absolutely ready to go. And like you said, Aaron Jones, not to be outdone either. I thought he went beast mode. He had a couple nice catches and nice runs. I mean, he put the Bears in their place too. Like you said, Quay
All
Lock.
this without Watson too.
What's that?
All this without Watson.
Without Christian Watson, who's supposed to be your number one guy. So I was impressed with the Packers. I think still on paper, I think the Lions had the most talent, but I think the Packers aren't very, very far behind. I think the Packers could be right there with them. I think you two definitely look by far the best of everyone in the division. And I think you might have more talent, maybe in a different kind of way than the Vikings. So if this is if it was any indicator of what's to come for the for the Packers this year, I think you got to be feeling pretty good. Jordan Love was like a human question mark. Nobody knew what to expect from him, and I think he gave more than a few answers. So if that's the life after Rodgers, I think it looks pretty good. And that's the way you start a season. Like you said, it doesn't matter who you play. You said it's still the Bears. You play who you play. You want to come out and you want to look good. You did that. I think you did your part, and I'm impressed. And you said too, you felt that the first 5 games was pretty favorable for the Packers. And you said it. You also mentioned it too. You go on the road to Atlanta. I'm looking at it right now. It's pretty much a pick 'em. You guys are favored by 1, so it's pretty much a toss up. I like you guys in that spot next week. Even on the road. I mean, you're on the road last week. Now you're on the road against Atlanta. I think it's a little bit easier. So,
Well, I think there's just a whole different. I mean, Rashawn Gary. I don't know if you saw the post game interview with Jordan Love, but Rashawn Gary's sitting there hyping him up in the middle of the. Like it just seems in a very similar way that Rodgers is a little happier on the Jets. It almost seemed like our players were, vibes are high for us too. Especially considering losing your most talented quarterback. And I don't know, I don't want to overreact because the minute I do that and get my hopes up is the minute Jordan Love comes back and has a Joe Burrow-esque game week 1. But I think our defense is going to keep us in those games. They looked great.
Love's still going to take his lumps. It's his first full season as a starter. He's going to take his lumps, but I mean, like, he didn't look like the moment was too big for him. He looked polished already. Obviously, it's one game. It's gonna be a long season, but I mean, the tools are there. It's not like he's not good. He's good. He just gotta have he's got to get some more games under his belt. But I think he's solid. I think you got to be impressed of where he's at right now, and just have him improve from week to week. That's what I'm taking away with Anthony Richardson. It's like if that's game 1 as a starter, I'm fine with that because it's only going to get better from here. I think it's only going to get better for Jordan Love throughout the rest of the season. If that's where he's starting at, I think things look pretty optimistic. So
let me ask you this, Mize. If Jordan Love ends up working out and he becomes a better than average quarterback, our team's going to start drafting QBs and letting them sit behind their starter for a couple of years a little more often now, because if it does work, like it worked with Rodgers, and if it works with Love, I think we might see an uptick more in that.
It just depends on the situation. At the time, a lot of Packers fans were pissed. Like, why are we drafting this guy? But clearly,
yeah, I was.
But the writing was on the wall back then. Like, you guys got more out of Aaron Rodgers than I honestly thought. I mean, I thought that guy was going to be gone years ago. And you were able to kind of keep him year to year. And I thought he stayed a Packer longer than I thought he was. At the time, it felt like Jordan Love might be, 1 year and he's ready to go. So you guys kept him longer than I thought. I think it was a very good move long term, though. I mean, you want to look long term from the flack they got at the time to where they are now. That was a great pick. And yeah, I mean, if you have a guy who's kind of there at the end of his career and, maybe getting into contract disputes, maybe it's not a bad move to pick up a first round pick, even if you are a contender. So I don't know. I mean, it was a very unique situation. Not a lot of teams go that route. I can't really think of a lot of other situations where that's happened besides the Packers. I mean, they did that with Brett Favre. They kind of knew that he was, getting toward the end of his career, not only as a player, but just as like a Packer. Like, kind of had butting heads every year in the offseason over contracts. So what did they do? They drafted a young quarterback. While many people argue they should have improved somewhere else, what did it do? It kept the franchise going for another 15 years. And I'm not going to say that's the same case for Jordan Love, but they made that
Right,
same long
right.
term move. And now you have a quarterback who's ready to go, in my opinion, ready to go as a starter. So from week one to where the season could be at the end of the year, I think that's a very good building block. And then you keep moving ahead here a little bit into these 3 o'clock games. Do you have any final thoughts on that game?
No, nope. Like I said, we looked good. Time will tell with us the rest of the season, but very pleased.
Yeah, I think it's a big dub if you're the Packers. I think it was a big L, a big stinking L if you're a Bears fan. A lot of hype, and there's just nothing there for the Bears. Moving ahead, upset in the 3 o'clock slot. Las Vegas, the Raiders over the newly put together Denver Broncos 17-16. I caught the most of the fourth quarter on there because I actually took an L on this one. I thought the Broncos were going to get the dub. I took them -3, so I took the L there. Jimmy G, I should have trusted my guy. I thought he looked very good. Again, you talk about quarterbacks in a new system. Jimmy G in a new system. Week one, I thought looked pretty good. I do not think the Raiders are going to have a very successful season, but I think this is more of a telltale sign of the Broncos. They're not quite all there yet. I mean, you can get a fancy new coach, a Super Bowl winning coach, but there's just not a lot to work with on the offensive side. Russell Wilson, I don't know, something's weird. Something's just been off with him. And credit credit the Seahawks. They kind of saw that too. They're like, we're willing to take a chance with Geno Smith over Russell Wilson, who won us a Super Bowl. So he moves to Denver. You get a new coach. It didn't look very good. I still think they could put something together. I still have a little bit of trust in them, but it didn't click week one. It might take some time for the Broncos to figure things out. This might be a little bit longer project than people thought, especially with still, the Chiefs on a loss. I still think are a solid team. I think the Chargers are a solid team. Broncos, I don't know. I was pretty high on them. If you go back to our podcast last week, they kind of went back down to earth, in my opinion. I thought it was a good win for the Raiders, even in a kind of an ugly fashion. They did what they had to do. That's kind of what Jimmy G does. 20 for 26, only for 200 yards, but he was efficient. He didn't make a lot of spectacular plays, but he made a lot of big plays on like third down. He's very good at the slant. He's very smart at reading defenses. Credit to him, they got the dub. What do you think from this game out there in the AFC West?
Yeah, it's kind of. I mean, kind of like the Bears, dude. The Broncos are going to Bronco. How do you? I was like you. I was high on them coming in. I'm like Russell Wilson's second year with them. Maybe they'll make some strides, show some promise. They got some young guys at receiver that are pretty damn good. Defense is solid, but god damn, they're just the Denver Broncos still, and they just didn't do much to prove otherwise. And for the Raiders, yeah, Jimmy G looked okay. One thing I'll say about Jimmy G is he is a winner. That man does win. Like you said, he's not the flashiest, but he can get the job done. And honestly, it's an impressive win for the Raiders. Kind of a shitty loss for the Broncos, in my opinion. We may be experiencing technical difficulties right now. Meisner's left the pod. Um, we'll get back on here in a second, but let's transition to probably the best game of the day. And in my opinion, two teams that have some of the most offensive power in the league, the Dolphins versus the Chargers. You want to talk about the Broncos keep broncoing? The Chargers keep charging. I don't know how in the hell they lost this game. I can tell you how. His name's Tyreek Hill. But you had a shootout, 36-34. Two of those, one pick, but those were 466 yards, 3 touchdowns. I mean, this was a barn burner down to the end. Tyreek blew it up. Jalen Waddle kind of a quiet game, but I mean, both offenses. Herbert with 228, 1 touchdown. Eckler with 117 yards on the ground, another 47 in the air. Both looked great on offense. Both defenses kind of looked like shit. And defense is what costed the Chargers at the end. That and a couple intentional grounding penalties towards the end, but the Dolphins look like they could win that division. They're in a tough one with the Jets and the Bills, but goddamn did they look good yesterday in Meisner. The Dolphins have a chance to win that division, and the Chargers have a chance to do the exact same thing they've been doing the past 2 years.
So you're impressed with the Dolphins? They think win the AFC East?
I, week one's always about overreactions. That might be one of mine. The Dolphins, I don't know. I just don't. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle on the field at the same time. If Tua's healthy and remains healthy for the whole season, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. They can beat the Bills. They can beat the Jets. Honestly, they could beat any team out there, even with the kind of shitty defense they have. When you have Tyreek Hill, I mean, he showed people he could do 215 yards and 2 touchdowns. You're going to be in any game if he performs like that.
Yeah, and the offense was electric. You want to talk about best performances offensively? A lot of teams looked like shit offensively. They just struggled. They put that shit together right away. I mean, Tyreek Hill had a historic day. 11 catches, over 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then Jalen Waddle, I mean, he kind of stole the show from Waddle. Waddle had 4 catches for 80 yards. He looked good too. You know, even though we only got a couple of targets. The defense, you know, it was a barn burner. So the defense might not be there as far along as some of the other teams. But we'll see how obviously Monday night's game here in a little bit looks until we can really put the pieces of the AFC East together. But I was very impressed too with Miami. I thought Los Angeles looked pretty good too. I thought the Chargers looked good. But I don't know, close games, they just kind of seem like they let games get away from them. I don't think they have the best coaching staff. I'm not entirely sold on Justin Herbert yet. I don't know. They just seem like they blow games that really matter. I'm really looking forward to the Chargers to take that next step. They're obviously talented, but when are they going to take that next step up and, you know, get to be the elite level? They're not quite there yet. Miami stole that one away. I think Miami just a better coach team. I'm impressed with Mike McDaniel. I'm impressed with that offense. I don't know if their defense can hold up in terms of like maybe coming out of the AFC and going to the Super Bowl, but they're going to be a damn good team. They could definitely win the AFC East too. I want to see the Jets defense. I want to see how the Bills look tonight first before I make any predictions on that division. But I was very impressed with them as well. Then we move ahead to some of the other 3 o'clock games. Philly and New England. Now, I took another game I was very, very confident on and took an L on was the Patriots. I took them +4, lost by 5. They got off to a really shitty start there, but their defense is good. I don't know. They just can't figure things out on offense. The Patriots can't. The Philly did not look super great. I mean, they did enough to win on the road, and Foxborough was always tough. They did what they had to do to get the win, but I wasn't super impressed with Philly. And I wasn't very high on them last week either. Like I said, I think Dallas is by far the best team in that division, and I think it showed yesterday. That was my kind of big takeaway from that game was Philly not as good as they were last year. The Patriots still kind of the Patriots. Their defense is going to keep them close. They still got Belichick. He's going to, you know, they're not going to be really bad. They could maybe be in the playoff contention, you know, towards the end of the season. But the offense, just too many question marks there. Mac Jones, who played bad at the end, kind of put it there towards together at the end. Ended up finishing with over 300 yards and 3 tutties. If they don't get off to that horrible start, you know, they might walk away with the win. So I think the Patriots still could end up being pretty decent in a loss. I don't know. I don't have a lot of takeaways from that game. It was just that was a tough game. I didn't really have anything that really popped out to me in that one. It was a close game, close win for Philly. I don't know. I'm still a lot of question marks on both those teams. I think they could be pretty good, but I also think they could take a step back.
I think if you're a Patriots fan, I think that's about as optimistic as you can get in a loss. You're not really expecting much. You're always having a good defense, but playing the Eagles, who I think are one of the best teams in the league, and losing by 5, yeah, it's not great, but that could be a lot worse. You could be the Giants. You could be the Bears. You could be there's a lot of teams that didn't perform like that. And like you said, Mac Jones, 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns. Some of those stats, I mean, stats don't tell everything, but I think losing by 5, I think that was a better outcome. As crazy as this sounds, I think that was a better outcome for the Patriots than it was for the Eagles. I think the Eagles should have came in there and steamrolled the Patriots, and they didn't, barely won. And the Patriots should have got blown out, and they hung in the game. And Mac Jones played an okay game. That's all you can ask for out of him. He's not going to be Aaron Rodgers or Josh Allen.
Yeah, I thought the Patriots played well. They got off to a horrible start. It was 16-0 at the end of the first quarter. I mean, that was the story of the game. After that, Philly finished with 25, so they outscored them 20-9 after that. I thought there's a lot of positive things that the Patriots can take away from that game. I think they let it kind of slip away just from that rough start. I thought they looked like a better team at times, and especially in the second half for sure. So, I don't know. I think that AFC East.
Hey, Sheets, we can't hear you. There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's light though.
Well, what I was saying is, sound
There
any
we go.
better? There we go. Okay. Yeah, I think that all teams in that division are very solid. I would be surprised
No, but go away. We can't hear you again.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Patriots surprise some people.
Yeah, they might. When you have Bill Belichick as a coach, I feel like you're always going to be optimistic, as they should be. I mean, he's proven to be there, and he's proven to be a winner. So we'll see how they do down the road. Not a terrible loss for him.
And in the last 3:00 game, I did not see this coming at all. Rams big over Seattle, 30-13. Matt Stafford had a good day, 300 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns rushing for Kyron Williams. Cam Akers had a rushing touchdown. The rookie, I think I'm saying it right, Puka Nacua, he had 10 catches, 119 yards. Then another young guy, Tutu Atwell, had 6 catches, 119 yards. The Rams bounced back after a shitty season last year. I think they looked pretty good. And then a team that really overachieved last year, who many people thought could repeat, looked crap, and that was the Seattle Seahawks. Geno Smith only had 110 yards passing. Kenneth Walker had a decent game, but other than that, the offense just wasn't there. And they got manhandled. They got steamrolled. What do you think about that game?
You gotta fix that mic, son.
Well, you go ahead. What do you think from the Rams and the Seahawks? Let's get my shit figured out here.
I was very high on the Seahawks. If you listened to our first episode, I thought they were going to be great. They got absolutely fucking steamrolled by the Rams. Matt Stafford. For all those people who thought, and I was one of them, who thought the Rams were just going to tank this year, don't think so. Matt Stafford, 334 yards, no touchdowns, but they beat Seattle in almost every aspect of the game. In Seattle, one of the toughest places to play. I mean, it was an impressive dub for the Rams and a shitty loss for Seattle. I expected at least a close game out of that. I honestly expected Seattle to steamroll them, and they just didn't. They looked flat. DK Metcalf didn't look good. JSN didn't look good. Tyler Lockett didn't look good. I don't know. I'm thinking that's hopefully just week 1 rust, and they'll figure their shit out. But that was a terrible performance out of Pete Carroll and his Seahawks.
It was. Hopefully my mic sounds better now. Speaking of also terrible performances, we got the Sunday night game, and this was the game yesterday I was looking forward to the most. I was super excited for this one. Nothing is better than Sunday night football. NBC broadcast is top-notch. Mike Tirico, Collinsworth. I was super pumped for this game. Division rivalry. And I was also I was high on the Giants. I thought they were going to make it a game. And they came out and took a fat dump in their pants. Danny Dimes turned into Danny turnovers. It just was awful from the start to finish. Daniel Jones, they got to stop putting this dude on national television. He stinks every time. Finished with 100 yards, 104 yards passing, 2 interceptions. The offense looked like shit. They gave up 40 points. You had a 40 burger and a donut. Not a good way to start the season.
I don't think he might not even reach like Kirk Cousins or Philip Rivers potential in his career if he keeps playing. I mean, that's who he kind of reminds me of. He's going to be a decent quarterback, but not ever win anything. But God damn, what did they look bad? I mean, that game from the start, the blocked field goal for a touchdown, then you got a pick six, and I honestly, at halftime bet Saquon Barkley to score a touchdown in the second half. Turned the TV off, woke up 40-0. I'm like, what the fuck? They didn't do a single thing on offense in the second half. No adjustments, nothing. And honestly, the Cowboys, yeah, their defense and special teams looked good. And this is going to sound crazy after coming off of a 40-0 win, but their offense didn't look that great to me. They didn't score their first touchdown until it was what 27-28-0 on offense. I mean, their defense carried them through that game. You're right. They didn't have to, but they're going to have to perform better.
You think they have to perform better? I don't know. I don't think
the offense, not the whole team.
Yeah, no, the offense. I don't think they had a chance to really. I mean, they didn't have to do anything. The offense didn't have to do squat. The defense set them up from the beginning, so it was hard to really gauge the offense at all. I don't think you can really go either way on that one for the offense. The defense was what impressed me the most. The Cowboys might have the best defense in the NFL. Super impressed with them. I mean, Micah Parsons, there's nobody like that guy. He got after the Giants, kicked their ass. I was very impressed with my Dallas Cowboys in week 1. I thought that was
okay. If you're going to claim the Cowboys, I'm claiming the Dolphins as my second team this year. That's fair. If you want the Cowboys, I get the Dolphins.
I've claimed the Cowboys for years now. The Cowboys are my
you can't. You of all people have to know you cannot have two teams. You can't like the Cyclones and the Hawkeyes. You can't like the Cowboys and the Colts. You got. If we're gonna have second teams, I want mine to be the Dolphins.
It's not really second team. It's like the Colts are my favorite team, but I'm a fan of the Cowboys. That's my NFC team. That's my opposite league, opposite side of the thing. So you talk to a lot of baseball fans that have an American League team. They have an NL team. There's a lot of Twins fans who like the Cubs. I'm not all for it. I'm not a bandwagon guy, but I grew up in a Cowboys household. So I had to watch Cowboys games every Sunday. I like them. I like the culture. I like the tradition. I like Mike McCarthy. I think he's one of the best coaches in the NFL. I don't know. I was very impressed with the Cowboys, and I don't know. I'll stand by. I'm claiming them as my team. I thought they look good.
That's fine. I think the biggest takeaway is the defense looked amazing for the Cowboys, and the Giants looked like shit. But Brian Daboll, I like him as a coach a lot. I think we said earlier you got to sweep that one under the rug. They'll come back. They'll be all right. They're going to be okay. But that was just, God, that was terrible.
Well, we'll see. You talked about Brian Daboll. I was a Brian Daboll fan too. Last year he got him to the playoffs in year 1, but I had some issue of what he said after the game. Brian Daboll in his post-game press conference said that he thought that his team gave a balls out effort. That's why I have my little tagline there. He said that the Giants came out and gave a balls out effort. Really? What? Did they? That's what he said. It was that was what his quote was. So I thought we came out and gave a balls out effort.
I take it back. He's a clown.
What happens when you don't have a balls out effort? What happens when what happens when the team's not all there? Because if that's balls out effort, I don't want to see anything else. That was bad. And I don't know, the defensive coordinator, Wink Martindale for the Giants, gave up a 40-burger. He might have to change his name to Stink Fartindale. That was bad.
Oh, shit.
Wink Martindale, change your name to Stink Fartindale because you took a big dump last night on all phases, offense, defense. And then for Brian Daboll, who's like a big, burly dude, a tough dude, to say something like that, I thought we had a balls-out effort. I don't know. I was not impressed. I don't know if you can hear us. I'll test it out. I have his quote right here.
Balls-out effort.
That's what he said. Balls-out effort.
Balls-out effort.
You got to be kidding me.
That's
That's
not a
terrible.
balls out effort. It was not a balls
I'm
out
off.
effort.
I'm off the Dayball train now. He's a clown. He's a clown. I don't like him anymore. I'm gonna overreact to that. That's fine.
I want to like him. He looks like a meatball, but it was bad. It was embarrassing. I mean, and Sunday Night Football too. Like, I'm a guy who's always defended Daniel Jones. I defend those quarterbacks. I've always defended him, and he embarrassed me last night. He looked awful. 40-0. That's 3 hours of my time I can never get back. I honestly can say I could have found something better to do with my time last night than watch Sunday Night Football. That was embarrassing. The way
Well,
the way for football to come back, there's nothing I love more. You talk about simple pleasures. There's nothing more that I love more in Sunday Night Football, and I had to watch that 40-0. But those were our Sunday night games. I mean, it was a lot of not great football all around, I will say. But that's week 1. I'm just glad football's back. I'm glad we had a full slate.
It's back.
I'm glad we got some great primetime games Thursday night. I think we will get another great one tonight. So that brings us ahead to tonight's preview. We have a special guest in the house. We'll add him to the stage here. What do you got to say? Come in.
Doing? How we doing?
Special's a certain term for this guy.
Can y'all hear me?
Oh, yeah, we can hear you, Special.
How we doing?
Yep.
Got a great podcast going, boys.
Jake back. Welcome back, Bills Mafia. What do you got to say about tonight's game? It's a tough one. You got to face Aaron Rodgers in his new uni. On the road? What do you think?
We might put up a 50 burger on these boys tonight.
Ooh.
All the hoot, all the holler. We saw that last year. I'm not sure that's the best thing for them. We'll figure it out. I mean, Josh Allen, he's been a little bit questionable against the Jets last year, but I think we see a different man tonight. I'm thinking.
Give me a Bills player that might surprise the world tonight. Maybe they don't know about
Dalton Kincaid.
Really?
Dalton Kincaid. I've been talking about him since we drafted him, and everyone, just pushes it to the side. But I think come tomorrow morning, I think individuals will start talking about him. ESPN, Stephen A., that fucking idiot. I think we're going to hear a lot about him. I think A.J. Epinesa is going to have a good game as well.
Throw out a stat line for Kincaid.
I'm thinking a touchdown. And then he's going under with the football tonight against that defense. Don't get me wrong. They got a good defense. We're going to see a lot of underthrows, and I think he's going to have 8 receptions, 75 yards, and a touchdown out of Dalton Kincaid tonight. See a lot of action out of the tight ends tonight, boys. Maybe 11, 12 personnel out there. We'll see.
12
Give me
guys
some other
in the field?
questions. Huh?
12 guys in the field? Is that what the Bills do?
10 personnel. Sorry.
Oh.
We're gonna see a stacked box. We're gonna see a power run. There's a lot of running in the game tonight. Not a lot of passing. I don't think we're gonna see a whole lot of that. Weather doesn't look good.
What kind of magnitude does this game carry for you? It's a divisional game. You're opening up, like Meisner said, with Rodgers. Not very much. A loss doesn't mean much to you tonight.
It's early. We saw the Chiefs go down week 1. Obviously, a whole different situation, but I think we'll learn from if we have any sort of mistakes. I don't think we will. Again, I think it's going to be a shutout tonight. We're going to look good. We're going to look good. Go ahead, Mize.
Shutout.
Well, I'm glad you brought up Dalton Kincaid because that's my biggest question.
Excuse me, Meisner. Dalton Kincaid.
Dalton, not Dawson.
Yeah. Dawson Knox.
Dawson Knox. That's right. You got 2 D's there.
Yeah,
Kincaid,
please respect my 2 tight ends.
That's my biggest question mark because obviously the Bills were good last year. They should be good again. But my question is, did they improve over the years, over the offseason? That's like their biggest, and that's the biggest move they really got was bringing in Kincaid. So is that the question mark? Another tight end?
I think we're going to see some Deontay Hardy out there. kid who didn't play last year, who was on the Saints 2 years ago. I believe he tore his ACL. Could be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that, please. But I think we saw a few couple weapons come in throughout the offseason. Another guy from Miami who played last year for the Dolphins. And Sherfield, I believe his name is. James Cook, he's going to get better. As well as Damian Harris. We brought him in. So a lot of weapons. I think we're going to see a different team this evening. We got Micah Hyde back as well. Von Miller's still out. He's 4 games out this year, but
Shocker.
I think we're gonna see a different team this year. I believe we improved, Meisner.
Okay. Are you nervous about the Jets defense at all? Not at all?
No, I'm not nervous.
Next
Next question, please. Next question.
Their defensive line.
Don't get me wrong. It starts with Big Q in the middle. We can shut him down. I ain't worried. I think we're gonna be their divisional opponent. We know them very well. We know exactly their tendencies, and we're gonna get after them tonight.
Okay. So that's what I'm most impressed with. I think about the Jets will be the most impressive this year is maybe not their offense per se. I think their defense could make a statement, maybe be a top 5 defense. But you're not nervous about the D line or anything tonight.
I believe they will be a top 5 defense, Meisner, at the end of the year. I believe you are correct there.
Okay.
However, I am not nervous.
I'll go on record and say I'm going to predict that Sauce Gardner is going to pick off Josh Allen once tonight.
That may be accurate, Russ. That may be accurate.
And it might be 6. It might not just be a pick. It might be a pick
Final
6.
score is going to be 50-0. We're going to lay a fucking 50 burger on these boys.
Actually, I'll give you $50.
35-30 Bills. That's my prediction. 35-30 Bills. That's a realistic prediction. I think we're going to see some offense out of both teams. It's going to be a close game. Go ahead.
Do you think it's a little odd that your 45-year-old pass rusher is out week 1? Do you think that has anything to do with his age or that he's washed up or anything? Or
I believe it goes back to Ford Field shit turf and what they have to offer to the players. That turf shit field. I think that's why. I think we've seen a fair number of players get hurt last year. Now, I don't believe he's 45 years old either, Russ. I believe that's Aaron Rodgers, who's 45 years old. Next question, please.
It's going to be a battle between I guess he's out. It will be. I personally think the Bills are going to be a good team. I'm with you, Meisner. I also agree with you in the fact that the Jets defense is going to be one of the best in the leagues. And it'll be interesting to see how Josh Allen decides to, if he does, tear up that defense. Are you guys going to run the ball a little more this year? Because you've been on
yes.
You guys haven't had a running game for the past 2 years. And now you've got James Cook starting.
They got James Cook starting. We're going to see a fair number of carries there. And we got Damian Harris from New England. He's a downhill power runner, run that motherfucker over kind of guy. And then we got Latavius Murray, who's 43 years old, but he's going to get some carries. Unfortunately, Nyheim Hines got wrecked on a wave runner on a jet ski, and he won't be playing this year.
So you like the Bills? We like the Bills -2 and the over? I think the over is 45.
Yes, absolutely, Meisner.
Okay. What about you, Russell? What do you like? What's your picks for tonight?
I've got for all you listeners out there that are on FanDuel or DraftKings, I've got a Russell can't lose same game parlay for you. And I'm going to pull it up here real quick. I'm not taking a winner in tonight's game. That's not what I'm going to do because I don't know who's going to win. But
might be smart.
If you're in FanDuel or DraftKings, there's a 50% profit boost. Stephon Diggs over 40 yards reception. Alan Lazard over 25 yards receiving. Garrett Wilson over 50 yards receiving. That's plus 208. Put the house on it. It's your first Russell can't lose parlay of the year. It's going to hit. Free money. Follow me all year if you'd like. What about you, Mize?
Well, the over-under, I think, is about perfectly. I don't think it's going to be as high scoring as people think, just because, like I said, I'm very high on the Jets' defense, so I think they're going to create some problems and try to keep this thing low scoring. I think the over-under is pretty about set. I don't know where I'd go with that. I think I'm going to stay away from the points. You're not going to like this. You're not going to like this, buddy, but I am taking the Jets +2 tonight. I just think that defense is a difference maker. I don't think it's really necessarily an offensive thing. I don't think Aaron Rodgers is going to have to do a lot tonight. In fact, some of the props I took tonight was Aaron Rodgers underpassing and Josh Allen passing. I think it's going to be a lower scoring kind of game. If the weather is as bad as it was kind of out east
Excuse me, you're an Indy fan. You're not a Cowboys fan. Excuse me, to get off topic. You're an Indy fan, not a Cowboys fan.
I'm a Colts. Colts are my favorite team. They have been my whole life. But I also am a fan of Cowboys.
Excuse me.
Favorite team.
Go ahead. Sorry to get off topic, Meisner. You were talking shit about the Bills, so I had to chime in real quick.
That's fine. No, I just the defense I think is a difference maker. So I would lean Jets tonight, but I could be wrong. It's gonna be a great game. I think I'm excited for this one.
I believe so. I think we're gonna have a great show tonight for all these football fans out here. I'll tell you what, Meisner, we're gonna beat some ass. We're gonna show the world what's up. Dalton Kincaid, tutty. Take that bet right now. There's your lock of the night. Dalton Kincaid touchdown.
You heard it here
listeners
first.
out
So
there.
we got some Bills tonight.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Russ.
Go ahead.
I'm with you. I think it's gonna be a low scoring game. I don't think it's gonna be 35-30 like Whack Job over here said. I think every time some people are gonna look at this game, think Josh Allen, Aaron Rodgers, a lot of points. They're forgetting about Bills defense is good, Jets defense is good. I think it's gonna be. If I was taking on the over under, I'd be taking the under, and I do like your under passing yards as well. But thanks for coming on, clown.
You have any final thoughts, boys?
Hey, if Bills win, I'll be back on tomorrow.
We'll have you back
next week.
We will have you back if the Bills win. If they lose, you're not coming back on though?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll come back on if they lose. Actually,
okay.
I had to rethink.
We'll get your post game. We'll get your thoughts next week, win or lose, because you had some strong opinions tonight. So we'll see if you hold up, if those opinions hold up or not.
35-30.
All right.
If the Jets 50 burger the Bills, you come on next week in a Speedo.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right.
If we 50 burger the Jets, you come on with a Packers Speedo. Sound good? Deal?
Deal.
I'll wear a Speedo regardless.
You got to wear an Indy one with Anthony Richardson. Trent Richardson, that bust. Anthony Richardson's face on it. All right.
I'll get Trent's on the back. I'll put Anthony's on the front.
Sounds good, boys. You have a wonderful evening. Thank you again.
Thanks for hopping on there. All right. So that's our expert opinion on the Bills game tonight from our good buddy Jake Beck. As always, strong opinions on his side. We gave our opinions on the Monday night game. We got a couple of segments we'll get to here real quick before we wrap things up. This is your segment you thought of. What was it called? You called it the asshole of the week?
Yeah, but I kind of liked you said the ass hat of the week. I think we should change it to the ass hat of the week.
The ass hat of the week? Yeah, let's do the ass hat of the week. Just a guy around the league. It could be a coach. It could be a player. It could be an analyst. It could be anybody connected to the game of football who just made a fucking ass out of himself. And I had a couple candidates in mind for this one, so I'll let you go first. Who do you have?
I did too, and we mentioned them both, but Jamar Chase, man, you just can't do that. You put that ass on your head, wear that ass hat, because if you're going to call the defense an L's and the Browns going to Brown and then put up 3 points, yeah, he had like 8, 7 reset, 5 reset, whatever he had. I don't care. You're the fucking Bengals and you're talking shit in week 1 and then you get punched in the mouth like that. Come on, man. That Jamar Chase ass hat week 1 right there.
I think he's a prime candidate of the ass hat. I have a couple guys in mind, and I'll name them all. I think Kadarius Toney was an asshat, dropping a wide open pass for a pick six. Like pretty much, looking back on it, kind of blew you the game. Then he drops another wide open pass there at the end that gets you set up for a possible field goal or touchdown. And then I'll have to double check to see if it was actually legit, but I saw on something on social media right after some dude like requested him like $50, Kadarius Toney on Venmo, and he like declined it right away. He was on Venmo declining like people's requests. So that also adds to the ass hattery. He's one of my honorable mentions. There's also to a smaller extent, there was another asset I saw. Hayden Hurst, the tight end for the Panthers. He caught Bryce Young's first career touchdown and without hesitation just fucking launched it up in the stands like it was nothing. And I think they were able to track it down, but it's like, dude, you gotta know, like, what the hell are you doing, man? That's kind of an asshat move. Like, you're Hayden Hurst. Like, no one even really cares if you score a touchdown. You shouldn't celebrate and throwing the ball in the stands. Like, no one cares. I thought that was kind of an ass-hattish move. But my main guy who was ass-hat of the week, who I already talked about, was Brian Dable. And I've been a Brian Dable fan. Like I said, year one and the Giants, a lot of question marks last year. He leads in the playoffs and gets a win over the Vikings. But you come out last night on national television. I'm hyped up for Sunday Night Football. So is all the country. And you put out an awful performance, 40-0. Like I said, you gave up a 40 burger, and you had a donut too. Not a good meal. Not a good way to digest my Sunday night. And then he comes out after the game, and like I said, he said that his team gave out a balls-out performance. I'm not a fan. I mean, listen to this.
Balls-out effort.
Balls-out effort.
Balls-out effort.
You had 0 points. You gave up 40 points. Daniel Jones had 100 yards passing, and you say this?
Balls-out effort.
It was not a balls-out effort. If that's balls out, like I said, I can't imagine what an average performance from them is if that was balls out. So he's my biggest ass out of the week. And that took a lot to take it away from Kadarius Toney because he was a big ass ad, I thought. Thursday night game, 2 big drops. And that was a big knock on him in New York because this guy can't catch passes. He can't be trusted. And then he comes into Kansas City and just stinks it up bad. So, and I thought he was going to be the for sure ass out of the week, and Brian Dable really swept it away last night with that. One more time before I end it here.
Balls out effort.
It was not a balls out effort, Brian. It was not.
Man.
Let's go real quick. One more. Biggest winner of the weekend, biggest loser in terms of teams. Who do you got?
Biggest winner. Okay. I'm going to have to go with the Rams. Everyone thought they sucked. They're going down the road to Seattle. We talked about it earlier, but that's a big win to start your season. Tone setter, a divisional opponent. And Matt Stafford still got that dog in him. I thought they came away this week with the biggest winner. I thought about picking my own team. Thought I'd stay away from it. So I'll pick the Rams for my biggest winner.
I think that's a good pick. There's a couple different teams you could go with, and that's definitely one of them for sure. I think I'm going to stick, though, with the Thursday night game. That was an awesome performance from the Detroit Lions, a team that's just been the laughing stock of the entire league, and they really turned it up on the road against the defending champs. In a night game, there's a lot to prove, and they showed up, and we got a good clip. Our good friend who I tried to bring on, she didn't want to come on. Emily Fontana was at the game, and they actually got a "Let's Go Lions" chant in Arrowhead after the game. Let me play this. Ooh, Fontana was fired up for a big win. I thought it was a good win for the Lions. Dan Campbell's a guy who got a lot of crap, got a lot of flack, especially in his press conference. Yeah, he said that they were going to bite kneecaps off. I got this too here.
We're going to bite a kneecap off.
I think they bit a kneecap off on Thursday. I think they took a big chunk right out of Pat Mahomes and fat Andrew Reid, and they got a nice win. They're my biggest winner of the week. But like you said, the Rams are up there. I think the Cowboys are definitely up there too for biggest winner. Who's the biggest loser of the week? Who's your biggest losing team?
Well, there's an obvious one. But we talked about them a lot. That'd be the New York Giants, but I'm not going to go with them. I'm honestly going to go with the Steelers. Now, I know they played one of the best teams in the league, but Mike Tomlin, a veteran head coach, Pittsburgh's gritty. They're known for playing well at home. Season opener, and they just laid an egg. They didn't look good. The offense looked terrible in the first half. Brock Purdy, who I know we can have a different conversation about him another time, but he was tearing up the Steeler defense. I expected a lot more out of Mika Fitzpatrick. Out of TJ Watt did get 3 sacks, so I guess he played well. But God, they stunk at home. And you think a Mike Tomlin led Steelers in Pittsburgh, an opening day would play a lot better than they did, and they just didn't.
Right. Obviously, the biggest loser was the Giants, but up until that point, yeah, you're looking at a team like the Steelers who just did not show up at all. That was a pick 'em game. The 49ers were favored by 1 point. It was a toss-up, and they got blown out. They are very fortunate, though, that Sunday night game happened because they would be the biggest loser if it was not for the Giants, for sure. You could probably say the Rams, or excuse me, the Seahawks too, maybe, but not as quite. I think the biggest stinkers, like you said, New York Giants took a big stink. They took a big dump on their pants Sunday Night Football. I think the Steelers too, like you said, took a big dump. I expected more from them too. And then we also talked about the Bengals. 3 teams that just took a big dump yesterday. Those are biggest winners, biggest losers. I think it was a pretty solid consensus on that. It was pretty clear cut, I think, this week for biggest winners, biggest losers. But hey, thank you for everyone who joined in. Thank you to Jake Beck who joined us. It's going to be a great Monday night game. We'll let you guys go. Every Monday night, though, at 5:30, 5:45, we're going to keep this rolling. We're going to get some guests on here. Thanks for everybody who joined and listened. We'll get the podcast out here in the next couple of days. Enjoy the last game of what's been a great weekend. You got any final thoughts, Russ?
I don't. Let's enjoy this Monday Night Football, first one of the year, and hopefully we kick it off right with a good game.
I think we will. I think we'll get a good game to end the weekend after last night's disappointment. So thanks again, everybody who's joining us today on the live stream. This is episode number 2 of Lay It on the Line. We'll be back every Monday, recapping the Sunday, Thursday night games, getting some guests on here, and just hanging out before the Monday night game starts. So thank you for joining us, and until next week.
Peace.